Story outline: The Price of Freedom. Part 1, The Underground Market. Introduction of Rylan Nash, a disgraced military pilot turned smuggler. Discovery of Nova, a 2-foot-tall crystalline alien being kept as a pet. High-stakes game of chance that leads to Nova's liberation. Revelation of Nova's unique abilities and her people's tragic history. Part 2, Quantum Dance. Development of the unusual partnership between Rylan and Nova. First major heist together using Nova's probability-altering abilities. Growing romantic tension despite their physical differences. Discovery of a conspiracy involving Nova's species. Part 3, The Corporate Web. Infiltration of Helios Corporation's research facility. Uncovering the truth about the extinction of Nova's people. Battle against corporate security forces. Revelation of other surviving members of Nova's species. Part 4, Breaking Chains. Plan to liberate the remaining survivors. Gathering allies from Rylan's past. Nova's struggle with her growing powers. Preparation for the final assault. Part 5, The Last Dance. Final confrontation with Helios Corporation. Liberation of Nova's people. Resolution of Rylan and Nova's relationship. New beginning for both species. Part 1, The Underground Market. The neon-drenched undercity of New Shanghai stretched endlessly beneath its towering skyscrapers, a maze of narrow streets and forgotten dreams. Rylan Nash pulled his worn leather jacket tighter against the perpetual acid rain, his cybernetic eye scanning the crowds for potential threats. 10 years in the military hadn't prepared him for life as a smuggler, but court-martial had a way of limiting career options. The Black Pearl Market sprawled through 3 levels of abandoned subway tunnels, its wares ranging from stolen tech to illegal bioware. Rylan wasn't here for either. His ship, the Starcatcher, needed parts that legitimate dealers wouldn't sell to someone with his reputation. The market's unwritten rules were simple: don't ask questions, don't make eye contact, and don't trust anyone. He was about to head to his usual parts dealer when something caught his artificial eye's enhanced spectrum. A soft, crystalline glow emanating from one of the exotic goods stalls. The proprietor, a massive Vrathan with chitinous armor and too many arms, was showing something to a group of wealthy-looking collectors. Inside an ornate cage that would have better suited an emperor's songbird, stood a feminine figure barely 2 feet tall. Her skin seemed to be made of living crystal, shifting between shades of azure and violet with each movement. Delicate patterns of light danced beneath her translucent surface, creating mesmerizing constellations. Her eyes, when they met Rylan's, held an intelligence that made his breath catch. Magnificent specimen, isn't she? The Vrathan's voice rasped like sandpaper on steel. Last of the Luminari. Their world was, unfortunately, lost to corporate expansion. Very rare. Very valuable. Rylan's organic eye narrowed. The Luminari weren't just lost, they were systematically erased when their quantum manipulation abilities were deemed too dangerous by the corporate alliance. He'd seen the classified reports during his military days. How much? The words left his mouth before he could stop them. The Vrathan named a price that would have bought a small starship. Rylan's credit chip held barely 1/10 of that amount. He was about to walk away when the creature spoke again. Although, I hear you were quite the gambler before your unfortunate discharge, Captain Nash. Rylan stiffened. Nobody was supposed to know his old rank. The Luminari's eyes seemed to glimmer with increased intensity. Perhaps we could make this interesting, the Vrathan continued, producing a deck of probability cards. 1 game. You win, she's yours. You lose. Its mandibles clicked in amusement. You work for me for a year. No questions asked. Every instinct screamed at Rylan to walk away. His luck had been poisoned since the court-martial. But something in the Luminari's gaze held him there, a calculated look that suggested this was no chance encounter. Deal, he said, and the crowd around them grew silent. The probability cards shimmered as they were dealt, each one existing in multiple quantum states until played. Rylan had seen enough rigged games to know the Vrathan was cheating, but there was something else happening too. Every time he touched a card, he felt a subtle vibration, as if reality itself was being gently nudged. The final hand came down. The Vrathan's multiple eyes widened in disbelief. Rylan laid out a quantum cascade, a combination so rare it was practically mythical. Impossible, the creature hissed. House rules, Rylan said calmly, though his heart was racing. Game over. The Vrathan's chitin plates rattled with fury, but with so many witnesses, it couldn't dispute the outcome without losing face. It handed over the cage's control key with barely concealed rage. A pleasure doing business, Rylan said, approaching the cage. Up close, the Luminari was even more striking. Her crystalline form contained entire galaxies of light, shifting and swirling beneath her surface. As he deactivated the force field, she stepped out with impossible grace. I am Nova, she said, her voice like wind through crystal chimes. And you, Rylan Nash, have just made either the best or worst decision of your life. You know my name? Her smile contained universes. I know many things. Including the fact that you didn't win that game by chance. Rylan glanced at the retreating Vrathan, understanding dawning. You manipulated the probability. My people don't believe in leaving important matters to chance, Nova said, climbing gracefully onto his shoulder. Now, shall we discuss how I'm going to help you repair your ship and restore your reputation? Rylan laughed despite himself. I thought I was rescuing you. Oh, my dear Captain, Nova's crystalline form sparkled with amusement, who says we can't rescue each other? The Starcatcher's engine room hummed with new life, its previously failing systems now operating at peak efficiency. Rylan watched in amazement as Nova danced through the quantum probability fields surrounding the machinery, her crystalline form casting prismatic patterns across the walls. Every movement altered reality in subtle ways, coaxing optimal performance from parts that should have failed years ago. You're still skeptical, she said, her voice chiming with amusement as she pirouetted between power conduits. Just trying to understand, Rylan replied, his cybernetic eye recording the impossible readings. You're not just predicting probability, you're reshaping it. Nova's crystalline surface rippled with patterns of light that he'd learned indicated pleasure. Reality is more fluid than humans realize. My people learned to swim in its currents while yours built boats to stay above it. Their partnership over the past month had proven more profitable than Rylan could have imagined. With Nova's abilities, they'd pulled off jobs that would have been suicide otherwise. Cargo that needed to arrive impossibly fast somehow found favorable solar winds. Security systems experienced random failures exactly when needed. Even the perpetually malfunctioning life support system had stopped trying to freeze them in their sleep. But it was more than just business. Despite their vast physical differences, Rylan found himself increasingly drawn to Nova's presence. Her intelligence, her wit, the way she saw the universe as an intricate dance of possibilities, it was intoxicating. Sometimes he caught her watching him with her crystalline eyes, and the quantum fluctuations around them would intensify in ways his sensors couldn't quite interpret. Speaking of swimming in reality, Nova said, interrupting his thoughts, I've found something interesting. She gestured, and holographic data streams materialized in the air. Remember that encrypted transmission we intercepted from Helios Corporation? Rylan nodded. The corporate giant had been acting strangely lately, moving massive resources to a supposedly abandoned research station in the Outer Rim. I've been analyzing the quantum signature. Nova's light patterns shifted to deeper, more serious hues. It matches the resonance of my people's technology. Exactly matches. Rylan felt a chill. I thought all Luminari tech was destroyed during the purge. So did I. Nova's voice held an edge he'd never heard before. But Helios has something. Something big enough that they're burning through probability shields trying to contain it. Could be other survivors? Or worse. Nova floated to his shoulder, her favorite perch. The quantum manipulation abilities that made my people targets, they weren't natural. They were engineered, developed over generations of careful genetic modification. What if Helios found our research? The implications hit Rylan like a plasma bolt. A corporation with the power to control probability itself would be unstoppable. The entire balance of power in human space would shift overnight. We need to find out what they're hiding, Nova said, her crystalline form pulsing with determination. But the station's defenses are probably impossible to breach? Rylan grinned. Good thing we specialize in impossible. Nova's laugh sent ripples through nearby probability fields. You're learning, Captain. Although. She hesitated, her light patterns shifting to frequencies that indicated concern. This would be dangerous, even for us. The quantum energies I'm detecting, they're unlike anything I've encountered. Rylan reached up to gently touch her crystalline surface, feeling the familiar tingle of quantum possibilities dancing across his skin. You didn't choose me just for my charming personality and broken ship, did you? You knew something like this was coming. I chose you because you understand what it means to lose everything and keep fighting anyway. Nova's form grew warmer under his touch. And because your probability patterns are uniquely compatible with mine. The admission hung between them, heavy with implications. Their growing connection had already defied conventional wisdom about interspecies relationships. The way Nova could synchronize with his cybernetic systems, the manner in which their combined luck seemed to multiply rather than add, it went beyond mere partnership. So, Rylan said, his organic eye meeting her crystalline gaze, want to go steal some corporate secrets and maybe save your species? Nova's entire form lit up with internal starlight. I thought you'd never ask. She paused, then added with a chiming laugh, but first, we should probably deal with the 3 corporate spy drones that have been watching us for the past 10 minutes. Rylan spun toward the view screen. What drones? My sensors don't show. Multiple alarms suddenly blared as 3 previously invisible craft materialized off their port bow, weapons charged. Remember what I said about swimming in reality? Nova's voice held both amusement and anticipation. Time for your first lesson in quantum combat maneuvers. The Starcatcher's engines roared to life as reality itself seemed to blur around them. Whatever happened next, Rylan knew one thing for certain, life with Nova would never be boring. The research station hung in the void like a massive spider, its angular arm stretching out from a central hub. Rylan studied the holographic display from the Starcatcher's bridge, his cybernetic eye calculating firing solutions out of habit. Nova hovered near the sensor array, her crystalline form dimmed to barely a glimmer, a sign of deep concentration. 17 quantum detection grids, she whispered. 4 probability containment fields. And something at the core that's wrong. Her light patterns swirled with distress. The quantum signatures are twisted, corrupted. Can you get us through? Rylan asked, though he already knew the answer. In the 2 months they'd been together, he'd learned that Nova's abilities had few limits when she was properly motivated. Of course. Her voice chimed with forced confidence. But Rylan, whatever they're doing in there, it's not just research. They're trying to break quantum physics itself. The infiltration went smoothly, too smoothly. Nova's manipulation of probability fields let them dock at a maintenance airlock that, coincidentally, malfunctioned just as they approached. Security patrols repeatedly turned down different corridors moments before they would have crossed paths. Even the internal sensors experienced selective glitches that rendered them invisible to the system. You're overdoing it, Rylan muttered as they crept through the sterile white corridors. This much probability manipulation will leave traces. They already know we're here, Nova replied from his shoulder. I'm just making sure they know exactly where we aren't. They found the first body in Research Lab 7. A luminary, like Nova, but its crystalline form was shattered, cracks running through its surface like lightning bolts frozen in glass. The quantum patterns within were chaotic, broken. Nova made a sound Rylan had never heard before, a crystalline keen that set his teeth on edge. They're trying to replicate our abilities, she said, her voice hollow. Forcing quantum manipulation through artificial means. This one, they pushed too far. Before Rylan could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Not security alarms, containment breach warnings. Emergency shutters began slamming down as the station's reactor core readings spiked into the red. They're not trying to stop us, Nova realized, her patterns shifting to warning colors. They're trying to show us. The next set of doors opened automatically, revealing a massive central chamber. Inside, suspended in a web of energy fields, floated dozens of luminari. But unlike Nova's natural crystal clarity, these beings pulsed with sickly colors, their forms twisted by forced evolution. At the chamber's center stood a human woman in a pristine white lab coat, her augmented eyes glowing with triumph. "Ah, Nova," Director Voss said, her voice carrying the artificial perfection of extensive vocal modifications. "We wondered what it would take to bring you to us." Captain Nash's reputation for getting involved in impossible situations made him the perfect lure. "You survived." Nova's voice was barely a whisper. "When our world burned. Thanks to Helios Corporation's intervention, yes." Voss smiled. "They recognized the potential in our research. The ability to manipulate quantum probability wasn't just a gift, it was the next step in human evolution. With enough study, enough refinement." "Refinement?" Nova's form blazed with sudden fury. "You're torturing our people." "We're improving them," Voss corrected. "And now that you're here, our most successful subject, we can complete the process." Rylan's hand went to his weapon, but probability itself seemed to twist around them. Every possible movement felt wrong, as if reality itself rejected their actions. "Quantum dampening field," Voss explained. "Carefully tuned to suppress unauthorized manipulation while allowing our enhanced subjects to operate. Quite effective, isn't it?" Nova's light dimmed further, her form trembling with effort. "Rylan," she whispered, "remember what I said about swimming in reality?" "Yeah. Some waves." Her form began to pulse with building energy. "You have to dive through." What happened next defied description. Nova's crystalline form shattered into thousands of glittering shards, each one a probability nexus unto itself. Reality rippled outward as she embraced chaos itself, overwhelming the dampening field through sheer impossibility. The chamber erupted into quantum chaos. The imprisoned luminari, freed from their constraints, began their own probability cascades. Voss's smug expression turned to horror as her carefully controlled experiment spiraled into magnificent disorder. "Now this," Rylan said, drawing his weapon as reality itself began to unravel around them, "is what I call swimming." The Starcatcher's medbay had never been designed to handle quantum physics gone wrong. Rylan watched helplessly as Nova's shattered form slowly reassembled itself, each crystalline shard finding its way back to the whole. Her light patterns were weak, flickering like a dying star. "That," she managed, her voice barely a whisper, "was not my most elegant solution. It worked." Rylan gently touched one of the larger crystal fragments, feeling the familiar quantum tingle. "Though next time you plan to explode yourself across 11 dimensions, maybe warn me first." Their escape from the research station had been chaos incarnate. With probability itself running wild, they'd managed to rescue 3 of the least damaged luminari before the station's emergency protocols kicked in. Now those survivors floated in quantum suspension fields nearby, their corrupted forms slowly stabilizing. They knew. Nova's voice held a mixture of pain and rage. Voss and Helios, they didn't just find survivors. They orchestrated the entire destruction of our world. All to force our evolution, to weaponize our abilities. How many more stations are there? Based on the data we stole? At least 7. Her form shuddered. And they're getting closer to their goal. The quantum corruption we saw, they're trying to break down the barriers between probability and reality. Create weapons that don't just manipulate chance, they rewrite it. One of the rescued luminari stirred, their crystalline form emitting a soft chime. Nova responded in the same harmonic language, their lights synchronizing briefly. Meridian remembers 20 others, she translated. Scattered across different facilities. Some. Her light patterns darkened. Some aren't themselves anymore. The forced evolution has changed them. Broken them. Rylan pulled up the stolen facility data on his cybernetic display. These security systems are unlike anything I've seen. Multiple quantum locks, probability shields, temporal barriers. We'd need an army. Or, Nova's form brightened slightly, we need chaos. I'm not going to like this plan, am I? Her laugh was weak but genuine. Remember those corporate spy drones we encountered? They weren't just tracking us. They were tracking everyone who's ever dealt in quantum tech. Black market traders, retired military, research thieves. You want to recruit them? I want to give them a chance at the biggest score in corporate history. Her light patterns shifted to something more devious. Helios has made a lot of enemies. With the right probability manipulation, we could ensure they all decide to take revenge at exactly the same time. Rylan considered the implications. A synchronized attack on all 7 facilities? That's impossible? Nova's form pulsed with affection. I thought you'd learned by now, Captain. Impossible just means the probability needs adjustment. Over the next week, mysterious data packets found their way to dozens of potential allies. Details of Helios's quantum research, security vulnerabilities, patrol schedules, all carefully selected to inspire specific responses. Nova worked tirelessly, her newly reformed crystalline structure glowing with effort as she nudged probability streams into alignment. The rescued luminari joined her efforts, their combined abilities creating cascading patterns of cause and effect. Rylan watched in amazement as their quantum manipulation painted the future in shifting possibilities, each adjustment bringing their goal closer to reality. There's something you're not telling me, he said one night, watching Nova weave probability fields in the engine room. Her movements had changed since her reformation, becoming more fluid, less bound by conventional physics. Many things, she admitted. But one in particular. She floated to his eye level, her form rippling with complex emotions. The quantum cascade I triggered in the research station, it didn't just break their containment. It changed me. Changed all of us. Changed how? We're becoming what Voss wanted, her voice held both wonder and fear. But on our terms. Every probability we manipulate, every quantum field we touch, we're evolving. Transforming into something new. Rylan reached out, feeling the enhanced energy flowing through her crystalline form. Are you still you? I'm more me than I've ever been. Her light patterns formed complex geometries he'd never seen before. But after we free the others, after we stop Helios, we might not be able to stay in normal space anymore. The quantum realm calls to us. The implications hit him hard. So this rescue mission is also goodbye. She moved closer, her energy field intertwining with his cybernetic systems in now familiar ways. Unless your cybernetic components. Her form pulsed with possibility. They already interface with quantum fields. With some adjustments, you could perceive reality the way we do. Join us in the quantum realm. But it would mean leaving everything else behind. Before Ryland could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Multiple vessels were dropping out of hyperspace, their probability cascade had begun early. "Time to choose later," Nova said, her form brightening with battle readiness. "Right now, we have 23 ships full of criminals and mercenaries arriving 12 hours ahead of schedule." Ryland grinned despite the gravity of their situation. "Let me guess, impossible to predict who might shoot at who." "Oh, Captain," Nova chimed with delight, "that's the best part. Every single probability is equally likely. Shall we go swimming?" Quantum fire rippled across space as 23 ships engaged in what would later be called the Probability War. Helios Corporation's defensive fleets found themselves facing an impossible array of opponents: smugglers, pirates, mercenaries, and retired military vessels, all arriving in perfect chaotic synchronization. From the Starcatcher's bridge, Ryland watched reality itself bend and twist. Nova and the other Luminari had merged their consciousness into a quantum network, their combined powers turning simple space combat into a multidimensional dance of cause and effect. "Third facility breached," Nova's voice echoed strangely, as if coming from multiple points in spacetime simultaneously. Her crystalline form had become almost fluid, patterns of light flowing through her like liquid starlight. 87% of our people located. But Voss is implementing Protocol Omega. Director Voss's voice cut through their communications. The woman appeared on their view screen, her augmented eyes now glowing with quantum energy of their own. "Did you think we wouldn't prepare for this? That we wouldn't have a failsafe?" Warning signals blared across every quantum frequency. At each Helios facility, reality began to fracture in new and horrifying ways. The rescued Luminari screamed in harmonic resonance as their corrupted brethren were forcibly merged with quantum acceleration chambers. "If we can't control the evolution," Voss smiled serenely, "we'll force it. Your entire species will transcend, or die trying." Nova's form pulsed with desperate energy. "Rylan, she's tearing apart the quantum fabric. If those chambers overload, reality itself breaks." He understood suddenly. That was always their backup plan. If they couldn't control quantum probability, then no one could. Nova's light patterns shifted to frequencies he'd never seen before. "We have to stop it. But the only way." She turned to him, her crystalline form more beautiful and terrible than ever. "Do you trust me?" "Always." "Then interface with me. Fully. Your cybernetics, my quantum nature, together we might be able to contain the cascade. You said that kind of merge could pull me into the quantum realm permanently." Her laugh was like breaking crystal. "At this point, my dear Captain, we'll be lucky if there's a normal realm left to stay in." Around them, space itself began to warp. Ships phased in and out of existence as probability waves collided. The rescued Luminari joined their consciousness into a singular quantum matrix, trying to hold reality together through sheer will. Rylan didn't hesitate. He interfaced his cybernetic systems directly with Nova's quantum field, feeling reality shift as his perception expanded beyond normal spacetime. Suddenly he could see everything, all possibilities, all timelines, all potential futures flowing like rivers of light. "Oh," he breathed. "This is how you see the world." "Focus," Nova's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. "The containment chambers, we need to." "Already on it." Moving with newfound certainty, Rylan navigated the quantum streams. His military training combined with Nova's probability manipulation, finding the one path through impossible odds. The Starcatcher danced through chaos, its systems fully merged with their shared consciousness. At each facility, they arrived at precisely the right moment, their combined powers disrupting the forced evolution process. Reality buckled and heaved around them as they fought to contain the quantum cascade. "It's not enough," Nova's voice held desperation. "The breakdown is accelerating. We need More chaos, Rylan finished, understanding flowing through their connection. You've been trying to control it, contain it. But that's not who you are anymore, is it? Her light patterns surged with revelation. We need to embrace the transformation. All of us. Together, they reached out to every Luminari consciousness, both rescued and corrupted. Instead of fighting the quantum evolution, they surrendered to it. Reality shattered, but instead of breaking apart, it reformed into something new. Director Voss screamed as her carefully controlled experiment transformed into true transcendence. The Luminari, all of them, began to evolve not into weapons, but into beings of pure quantum potential. Through their connection, Rylan felt Nova's joy as her people found their true path. But he also felt her sadness. You know, he said, still perceiving reality through their shared consciousness, you never asked what I chose. What? About joining you in the quantum realm. You gave me the choice, but then reality started breaking apart. Her light patterns shifted to frequencies of hope. And? I'm already here, aren't I? Half my systems are quantum-based now anyway. Might as well go all in. Nova's laugh rippled across dimensions. You mean? Hey, someone has to keep you probability-bending troublemakers in line. His consciousness began to merge more fully with the quantum field. Besides, I hear the swimming's amazing. The transformation was nothing like they expected. As the Luminari evolved into quantum beings, Rylan's cybernetics adapted, creating a bridge between realms. They became something entirely new, neither purely quantum nor purely physical, but a harmonious blend of both. Helios Corporation's grand experiment ended not with weapons of mass probability, but with the birth of a new form of existence. The quantum realm gained its first human resident, and the physical universe gained guardians who danced through possibility itself. You know, Nova's voice chimed across their shared consciousness as they observed both realms simultaneously. For someone who claimed to have terrible luck, you've done the impossible several times now. Rylan's laugh echoed through quantum space. Impossible just means the probability needs adjustment, remember? You taught me that. Indeed. Her quantum form intertwined with his consciousness. Shall we go swimming? Together, they dove into the endless sea of possibility, leaving behind a universe forever changed by a gambler's choice and a quantum dance of love.